How you doing, guys, and welcome to another episode where I'll be taking a look at the PlayStation Plus games available through October 2018. The first game I'll be looking at is Friday the 13th, the game, which seems kind of fitting seeing as how Halloween is just around the corner. Now, this game was released back in 2017, but as I said, it's currently available for PlayStation Plus, so if anything, interest of this game is going to be peaked at this point. The game itself is an online-only survival horror game which is based on the extremely successful Friday the 13th movies, which have spawned 10 original movies plus a remake. This is a franchise that's been going on for a long time, and it has a very large and very dedicated fan base. So naturally, this game had to deliver, because all the people who are fans of this are so particular on what they want that everything in this game must match up to their extremely high expectations. As a fan of the movies myself, and because my expectations are high myself, I went into this very skeptical. However, I was very pleasantly surprised. I was definitely nervous when I found out that this game started off as a Kickstarter funded game. That made me worried, but after playing it myself, I can tell that the developers used all the Kickstarter money to good use. They really put a hell of a lot of love and care into this game to not only A, make it fun, but also B, and this is probably the most important thing, make it as accurate to the movies as possible. In the game, you play as Jason, who, just like in the movies, has a serious problem with young teenagers coming around and fucking about in his woods. And if ever that happens, he decides to go on a murderous killing spree and teach them all a lesson. It's just something he simply has to do. And this game very much follows closely to the movies. There's very little plot, but that's not really why people play games like this or watch movies like that. It basically involves counselors around Jason's lake, and he goes around and murders them. And that's pretty much it. As I said before, this is an online only game, which means they aren't just random people that you're hunting around in the world as Jason. These are real life players around the world who are desperately trying to escape from you, and that makes it so much more interesting. They think like real people. You can try and hunt them down, and sometimes you can outsmart them, and sometimes they can outsmart you. Take this one for example. I thought I got her, but unfortunately for me, because she picked up a pocket knife, means that she was able to stab me in the neck with it as a self-defense item, which means I lost track of her. After I saw her escaping, I decided to use my teleportation ability, which is on a cooldown rate, to quickly try and catch up with her. I knew she didn't get far, so I just had to look for her, and then a classic kill from the movies took place. Eagle-eyed fans will know that that particular kill was inspired by Friday the 13th Part 7. A very iconic scene that they tried to recreate in the 10th sequel, Jason X, but failed miserably.
Hey, you want a beer?
Or do you want to smoke some pot?
Or we can have premarital sex.
The less said about that movie, the better. Anyway, they're nice little touches right here. This game is filled with all the lore and references to the original movies, and if you're a fan of these movies, then you're gonna eat this stuff up. But you know what, even if you're not a fan of the movies, even if you've never seen them, it's still pretty interesting to see this kind of stuff. Outside the game where you're hunting the counselors, there's also a separate mode in which you can wander around a static cabin reading up on the lore. Take this particular scene for example, where you'll see a very famous scene from Friday the 13th Part 2. It's nice to be able to wander around the cabin and see things like this and read up about the lore and story behind them from the producer's point of view. It's very interesting stuff. Although don't get me wrong, this particular part of the game adds no benefit to it whatsoever, but it's nice to read up on different lores and it's definitely interesting, but only if you're a fan of the movies. If you're not, this is not going to interest you, and you're going to want to jump back into murdering counselors as soon as possible. Luckily, the gameplay definitely holds up. The controls are tight and responsive, and the maps are a fairly decent size, and there's quite a few of them as well. It gives you plenty of opportunities to explore around and hunt down the counselors who literally could be hidden anywhere. You have various different power-ups to be able to do this, for example the teleportation ability that you saw me use earlier. There's also various different other ones like a sense mode which will for a very brief point highlight all the enemies in the game, and right now we're about to see another reference from another film, Friday the 13th Part 8. Knocking his head clean off with one punch, eh? Impressive, but I definitely preferred how they did it in the movie.
Take your best shot. Motherfucker.
Ah, the classics. Anyway, as I was saying about the power-ups, you can equip multiple different ones, and you can use them, but they only last for a couple of seconds, like the sense ability I used earlier. They will highlight all the characters, but it will run out after roughly between 5 to 10 seconds. After that, you'll have to wait a set amount of time before it recharges. There's also various other ones, like the Stalker ability, which every time Jason is near an enemy, high voltage music will play so they know he's around. If you activate the Stalker ability, he will remain completely silent so you can literally sneak up on your enemies, which is what I tried to do in this scene. I knew he ran in this room, but I completely lost track of him, and I didn't have any power-ups that would highlight his position, so I decided to think outside the box. Luckily, I guessed right and I was able to take out my target, and there's something really satisfying about hunting your targets and using your instincts. As I've said before, you're playing against real life people, so you have to use your wits about you. Try and put yourself in their shoes. If you were them, where would you hide? I did that and was able to find my target. Other times you'll just be able to search around randomly, and sometimes it'll pay off and other times it wasn't, but even when it doesn't, there's still something fun about basically a giant game of hide and seek. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this will be for everyone, but for me personally, I really enjoyed it. The counselors themselves aren't just completely defenseless people. They'll be trying everything they can to either A, stop you, or B, escape from you. The ways that they can stop you is that throughout the world are scattered with various different items that they can use. For example, you saw earlier about how someone had a pocket knife, and this will act as a defense item if I was to grab hold of them. There's also various other different things like firecrackers which can temporarily stun Jason. There's even flare guns that if you shoot at him will stun him. And if you're very, very unlucky and you will go up against the character of Tommy Jarvis, which we'll go into more detail a bit later, then he can have a shotgun and this can do some serious damage. Basically, the whole point of the counselors is they have to escape you, and we'll be going into more detail about that right now. That's right, because in this game you don't just play as Jason killing the counselors, you can also play as a counselor who has to escape from Jason. And this changes up the gameplay massively, but for good reasons I think. So during my session where I was playing, I basically had to try and escape. And you can do this a variety of different ways, but probably the most common way is to find all the various different parts that can fit in this car. The battery, the keys, and whatever. After you've done that, you can jump in the car and drive away and escape. However, hunting down these items are easier said than done because, as I've said before, the maps are pretty damn large and these items could literally be anywhere. And it goes without saying, but while you're searching around these huge maps for these items, a player around the world could be controlling Jason and he could be hunting you the entire time. After making my escape from Jason, I hid in this tiny cabin and locked the door behind me. Now I was free to hunt around this cabin and hopefully find some items that I needed for the car. So I began searching around looking for some all-important items that maybe I could put to good use. But unfortunately, it didn't work out like that. I quickly realised that there wasn't really any items of any worth in this small building, and to make matters worse, I closed myself off into a very, very dangerous position because there wasn't many exit points and literally nowhere to hide in here. So if things went bad, they were gonna go bad very quickly. After I tried to escape from the window, the camera went all staticky, which means Jason had used one of his abilities and he knew that I was in this cabin. At this moment, a little bit of panic stepped in. I could hear him rustling around outside, but he didn't really do anything to come in here and I couldn't understand why. I was thinking about whether to go out the window or try at the front door, when unfortunately for me, he started smashing the door. I escaped and then I realised what was taking him so long to come in. The guy I was going up against was extremely clever and he placed a bear trap outside the only window so that when he came through the door he forced me to go into his trap and then he took me out. That is one clever bastard. If you do die, you have the option to exit the game session or to carry on as a spectator where you can watch how the other players are doing. Now at this point, I should just say that if certain specific actions are met in the game, then one of the deceased characters can come back as the legend Tommy Jarvis, who is very important in the movies. And luckily for me, I was the one who got to come back as him. That's right, that's Tommy Jarvis from the movies.
I touch you, please. You in show business, kid? You sure know how to make an entrance.
Look, you gotta do something. Jason's alive. He killed my friend, now he's coming for me.
You gotta cool out, boy. You're
Powerful now.
Aren't you the kid whose mother and friends were killed by that?
For anyone who hasn't seen the movies, this name probably means nothing to you. But if you have seen the movies, you'll know how important a character he is.
No problem, Rick.
The character model in the game resembles how he looked in Part 6 very, very closely. And basically in that movie, Tommy Jarvis goes out and he means to hunt down Jason as opposed to just run from him like everybody else does. And this is what you can do in the game as well. When Tommy Jarvis comes on the scene, he is immediately equipped with a shotgun that can do some serious damage to Jason. As well as that, he also has extra special perks that none of the other characters can have. For example, he has a higher stamina bar so he won't run out as quickly as other characters, but also, if you're close enough, then Jason will actually appear on your map so you know where he is. Basically, the whole point of his character is to hunt Jason down as opposed to escape like the rest of them are. Unfortunately though, sometimes it is safer to run than it is to fight. After I wasted my one shotgun shell and didn't kill Jason, don't get me wrong, I did a lot of damage, I just didn't kill him, I decided to find the car battery. After I found it, some rude bitch pushed me out the way so she could pick it up herself. Talk about fucking teamwork. But I thought, no, I'll escort her back to the car and we can escape together. After she put the battery in the car and it was all ready to go, I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to get in the car and drive out of here to escape. I mean, all the grey circles were lit up, so the car was all ready to go. I just could not figure out how to get inside it. It was definitely due to my own stupidity more than the game, but it really annoyed me. So, I decided to go hunting for Jason and hopefully finish him off. My shotgun blast did some serious damage to him, so if I could find another weapon, then I could be able to finish off what little health he had remaining. Unfortunately though, as the game went on, I quickly realised that I was the only survivor left in the game, and even though I tried my hardest to survive as long as I could, I quickly realised that I was not going to take this guy down. So, I thought the next best thing I can do is run back to the car and give it one more go of getting the hell out of here. Unfortunately though, because I was the only character left alive, it means that he was focusing on me and me only. And I still could not figure out how to get in this fucking car. To make matters even worse, this is the same clever bastard that tricked me before, and he decided to trick me again. I wondered what the hell he was doing, only to realise he was placing a trap down by the car door, and then we had a little cardio session running backwards and forwards around the car. Doesn't this look fun? If a little foolish, yes, but definitely fun, until I got caught in the trap. So, I didn't escape, and even though I did a lot of damage to Jason, I couldn't quite finish him off either. But I am still happy that I made it as the last remaining survivor. That's a small victory if nothing else. Anyway, I really enjoyed my time with this game. It definitely took me by surprise. I was not expecting much at all. But I'm pleasantly surprised with what I played so far and can definitely see myself enjoying this game more and more. Unfortunately though, thanks to some legal proceedings and court actions, it means that this game can never again be updated, which is a real shame, because as everybody knows, when an online game can never be updated, it's basically dying a very slow death. It's only a matter of time before people turn off it. So for that, I would suggest playing this game as much as you can right now, because sooner or later, it's gonna be gone. And luckily, you can do that by downloading it off PlayStation Plus right now for absolutely free. Thank you for watching my video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this game as much as I did, and I'll see you next time.